got this stuff going on here that is loading, it looks like. Okay. This one here is waiting for that to start. Let's see what happens here. So, um, by the way, sorry I missed you guys the last couple of nights. As you know, I was at the Printers Row Lit Fest, and we got that. It was just a busy time. Friday night, actually, I was meaning to get up here. I got stuck doing just prep work for it. So I have this when I sell my paperback books at a show, I offer a copy of the ebook and the audiobook for free. And there's two reasons I do this. One, I think when you buy a book from an author, you should be able to enjoy it in any format that it's available. If you're going to pay me for the book, hey, you want rather listen to it or rather put it on your Kindle, but have that paperback, that signed paperback as a little souvenir, go for it. You can have it that way. I that's what I do. I buy a lot of hardcover books and I listen to the audio. So that's one reason. The other reason is I get their email address, right? So that adds to my email list. I add them to my Substack Insomniacs newsletter, and you know they're welcome to unsubscribe if they like. But if they don't, I've got someone there. Um, so let me talk about that first a little bit. So I did the show with a couple of writers I met here on X or Twitter when it was Twitter. We formed a group called #Writers, and Jody Sperling is really kind of the driving force on that. And he's got a great podcast, Becoming a Household Name. If you're not listening to that, please add that to your list. And so he's been doing a lot of like Comic-Con type conventions and things like that. And I went to the I've been to the Miami Book Fair a couple times. Actually, one time I've been there. And I've been to the Printers Row Lit Fest last year, and it looked like a good deal. I talked to some of the authors. They said they were doing really well. So I said, let's try this one, see what happens. Now, Jody was skeptical because he had a bad experience with a book fair where the only people he sold books to were other authors. But it was like poorly planned, had really bad traffic, no signage. So they were kind of like in a bad situation there. So Jody came up with that. Where am I doing? Hang on a second. I'm trying to get something here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So he was doing that, and we did all. Uh, I said, let's give it a try because people I said are doing well there. So we gave it a try, and it did not turn out well at all. Well, I shouldn't say it didn't turn out well. It didn't turn out how I had hoped. I was hoping that we would get um, a lot of sales, like at least make back the cost of the booth. We did not. So we did not make back the cost of the booth, but I had a really nice time talking with readers and hanging out with Jody and Christopher Talon. So Christopher Talon here's in the middle. Let me zoom in a little bit here on these guys. So that's us. That's us at the show. #Writers. We have this nice big banner. I have this little thing on there called author signing today. And so that's Jody on the Cubs hat, and that's Christopher standing in front of his book Switchers, and then me on the right there. And so we had our books out there, and it actually started out okay. We first couple hours were kind of dead, but actually, first couple hours were slow. But then it picked up toward 2:00, and then after 2:00, it just died out. I mean, almost nothing. And then we thought, okay, well, maybe all the serious buyers will come on Sunday. Sunday we did a little worse than we did on Saturday. So, giving you hard numbers, we did a little over $800 in sales. Cost of the booth was over $1,000. So we, considering that, part of the sales goes toward buying the books, maybe we cleared five five to $600. So lost money on this, but in the long run, I think it's going to pay off. Now, for me, I was also promoting my fiction podcast, and I did see a big bump in listeners over the weekend. I had normally in any given week, I'll have if I drop 2 episodes, I'll have about 300, 350. I had that in 3 days from people taking I made these little I showed them to you the bookmark cards. So they've got like different genres, picture from one of the stories, a QR code. On the back, you see all my books and a link to my website, my personal website, therichhostik.com. And so if someone came and they didn't buy a book, I'd say, well, listen, try out my fiction podcast. And a lot of them did. Hopefully some of them subscribed. I did have one person who came up and subscribed right in front of me. So that was pretty cool. What I want to try at some point too is like, hey, if you subscribe right in front of me right now, I will give you a free book or a discounted book or a 50% discount or something like that. So we'll see if we can get that to go. Um, all right. So not financially, not a great experience, but I did learn a lot. I came out of this with a lot of information, a lot of experience, a lot of, I mean, the foot traffic was high and it was good numbers for me. I think it may have been my best show. It just was the show cost a lot to get into. So certainly it was certainly my best day on Saturday, I think. All right. So like I was saying too, I had 4 books out there. I had 3 novels, my short story collection, but then I also had the mini books. And so if you recall, this is what the mini books look like. See, that may come back over here solo. There we go. This is what the mini books look like. I sold these for $5 or 5 for 20. So I have 10 titles of this, different titles, science fiction, alien invasions, and so forth. Fantasy, horror, monsters. So people come by, and they kind of like go by, go, hey, these books are only $5, 5 for 20. And that price point, I think, got some people. Now we noticed too that, some we were selling the books for $20. Some of the people were a little hesitant there. On Sunday, I started like saying, if I would say it's $20, the person just didn't say anything, I'd say, but I'll give you $5 off if you buy it right now. That did get me some sales. In fact, towards the end of the day, like near 6 o'clock on Sunday when it was shutting down, I had a guy came up. I sold him my near death afterlife bundle, which is this book over here. These two, right? Sold him these 2 books. Normally the deal would be $20 for the first one, 15 for the second one, which would be 35. I said, I'll give you both for $30. He says, okay, I'll take it. I sold 2 books instead of no books. So that's always a good idea when you're in that sort of situation to like make the sale rather than losing a sale at a higher price point. So this was our booth. Let me just show this to you guys. I'm not sharing it. Hang on. All right, I'm not showing. Here's our booth, right? Let me turn me off here. There we go. So this is our booth. Zoom in here a little bit. So hashtag writers at the Lit Fest. Now we weren't on the main drag, which is Dearborn Street, and it's like 2 blocks of just tents. We were on kind of like a little cross street on Polk. There was some programs on either side and a used book booth that was very popular, but I think we got probably about half as much traffic as the main drag did. So if we had gotten on the main drag, I'm thinking we might have done twice as well. So I'm torn as to whether or not I'm going to try it again next year. It really depends on how well I do the rest of the year leading up to that. We're going to Miami in November. If that goes well, I may sign up for this again and give it another try and see what happens. All right, so there's our booth. And you can see we had like giant tables. We had basically, what is this? I think this is like 2 10-foot tables. So these are giant tents, and we had, like, basically 1/4 of this tent. And, I took up most of one side, Jody took up most of the other side, and then Christopher just had one title. He's gonna have a second title coming out soon, so by the way, his book, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but the premise is awesome. Kids in 1996 get into a time travel war with their adult selves. Just that part alone sells me on that book, and I do own it, I just have not read it yet, and I'm hoping to get to it soon over by the holidays at the latest. So we had this set up. People would come by. People are always drawn to Jody's covers. His covers are beautiful. He's got this series here, Nine Lives of Margaret Longhai, Ipal Magica Suzy Q, 24/7 in Russian, and then Six Sorrows. And so this is part of a series he calls the Luke and Time Mysteries. And just people are just drawn to those covers. They go, "What's going on here? This is interesting." They come up and talk to him and do this. But the thing I notice is that, he's got to talk to them and sell them on it, which is fine because he draws people in, but there's no if they don't wanna talk, there's nothing for them to give them any indication that he is, what the books are about and what he's doing. Uh, Christopher had some great signage here. He's got some blurbs here that are pretty short, right? So you get this going here, and he's got the back of the book showing here, the front of the book, so people can come up and see what it's about, and he gives them their pitch. He's got, like, the one-line pitch, and then he expands it into a 3 or 4-line pitch, and it comes out really well. And meanwhile, over here, we got old Rich. Oops, let me zoom in a little bit more here. Get rid of this. Can I move this? I can't move that. Okay. So there's my stuff, right? So I've got this book here, The Dead Kids Club. This draws people in by the title. People pass by, they see that, they go, "What is that?" And they come up, and then they have to read all of this. If I see them, I'll say, "Do you like a thriller?" And I give them the pitch. But even my pitch is too long. I really believe it's too long. And then having to read all this, it's way too much. Same thing with this, right? Near death and afterlife, you kind of like, okay, that's kind of interesting juxtaposition here, right? And you can read all this stuff here too, a lot of text. This one here, not so much text, but kind of unexciting too, right? Free audiobook that may catch their eye, usually doesn't. I usually have to point to this sign. It's kind of like hidden amongst all this stuff here. And then here are the mini books. You can see I got a little sign for the mini books here, $5 each, 5 for 20 and so forth. And people would come up and take a look at those and see all those, but you can't really see them from the street. So there's a couple issues there with my display going on here. So I'm just going to focus on my stuff here and the things that I've decided. So my pitch for the Dead Kids Club has been just going straight into the elevator pitch of the story, which is let me put my camera back on here so you guys can see. There we go. Which is two parents lose their child to a drunk driver. He gets away with it. They decide to take justice into their own hands. And then if they seem interested at that point, then I go on. I say, thing is, he's the son of one of the city's most notorious not mobsters, so it doesn't go unnoticed. Okay, are they still interested? Okay. Along the way, they join a support group for other parents who have lost their kids, the Dead Kids Club. They just meet other couples who are in a similar situation where their child's killers got away without any justice. So they just start going Dexter on all these child killers. And if they've hung in that far, if I get to that, maybe about 25% of the time, they'll go, "Ooh, that sounds interesting," and they might buy it, right? And I'll do the hard sell, say, it's $20 for this book. If you buy any other book here, it's $5 off, and so forth. So that's the pitch for that. It's a long pitch, and it takes a while to sort of really hook them, right? It's kind of like they nibble at the bait, and then you reel the line in, and then they nibble it again, and then you finally hook them. But most of the time, they get away. The Rainy Day Investigations, my paranormal mysteries. The pitch for that is X-Files of the paranormal, right? I've got a anthropology professor. She moonlights as a parapsychologist, teams up with a skeptical ex-cop, and they solve cases with a paranormal angle to them. and near death. He hasn't, but I do the rundown of the title for each one if they're interested at that point. If they're like doing it, so I keep on doing this. So there you go. When I'm doing the mini books or the thing, I have an award winning podcast, and I've got the little award. I brought my award here. You can see it down in there, right there. This is the podcast awards for best fiction podcast. And so I'll say, hey, yeah, I have a fiction podcast. These books here are only $5. You can pick a genre that you like, give it a try. Or if you like short stories, I got a full anthology here. And then over here, you can see these little cards. These are my handouts. And these are 8 different genres of stories from my podcast. Like I said, with the QR code and an image on the back is my books. And so hopefully they'll take one of those and say, "Oh, monster stories. Oh, horror stories. Ooh, science fiction. Yeah, let me take that." And they'll walk away with that. And maybe I'll get a podcast listen out of it. All right. So that's a lot, right? And I found myself talking a lot to some people and not getting a sale. And I really believe it's because I'm talking a lot. Should not have to have that long of a pitch. I need something that grabs them and pulls them in. So as the weekend went by, I started refining my pitches here. So for the Dead Kids Club, um, if they walked up interested, I say, "Hey, do you have kids or nieces or nephews?" And invariably they'd say yes to one of those. There's hardly anybody who doesn't have some sort of child in their life. And I asked them, "What would you do if that child was killed and the person got away with it?" And they go, "Ooh." I said, "What if um, what if you decided to take matters into your own hands? What if I mean, so I would do a lot of what ifs, and this is why that was the first iteration. I go, what if it turned out that he was the son of city's most notorious mobster? What if there was a nosy reporter and a curious cop on your tail? What if the other parents in the support group you're going to start notice that other child killers are suddenly dying?" And they go, "Ooh, yeah. Well, the answers are in that book." So that I think kind of grabs them. I think that question, what would you do if that child was killed and the person got away with it? Wow. So I think that's a little bit more. It may not be the best pitch for this book. I keep on refining it, always keep trying new things, but I think it's far superior to what I had. For this one here, I realized that you know what this this really is more than the X Files, and a lot of times when we're pitching concepts, you pitch it with comps, right? This is like um, what's a good example here of so I've got an idea for a series of novels called Spy U, which is Austin Powers meets Revenge of the Nerds, right? Right away you get sort of like an idea what's going on. Okay, it's going to take place in college, and it's going to be the whole silly super spy angle to it, right? So for this one, I said Scooby Doo meets the X Files because they are humorous books. There's a lot of humor in there, a lot of laugh lines. Um, Jennifer Day, this parapsychologist, she does have a collection of students who help her out. Um, who you know, kind of like there's altogether there's 5 of them, just like in Scooby Doo. No talking dog. I'll say that. I'll throw that in too, but without the talking dog. Scooby Doo meets the X Files, but without the talking dog. And then there'll be, oh, that's interesting. And then I can pitch the stories for each one of these because when you hear that, when you hear um, Scooby Doo, okay, investigating ghosts and stuff like that. And then X Files, okay, you've got like the whole skeptic and true believer pairing going on, and it's rare that people don't know one of those two or both. So that's going to be my new pitch for that. And then over here, I think I'm gonna like sort of downplay this a little bit. Maybe keep this up here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I really don't know what my pitch is for this anymore. I got to work on that some more. But these two, I've got this going. So Let me show you what I started with here. Oops. Yeah, I didn't want you to see that first part there. So this here is okay. Here we go. This is my display piece for this story here. Let me bring this in a little bit. There we go. So this is I sometimes I'll print out this review. This is a review from the Redhead Notes. She really loved this book. She was very anxious to feature it. Okay, so this is normally what people have to come up and read on my site. Move this over a little bit. Let me hide this from you guys. All right, you already saw it, but so it's not going to be a surprise. But there you go. So this is it, right? You can see you can barely read this stuff here, right? It says ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. So that was my original pitch, and I thought it was clever. But man, even though it's only 5 words, it's 5 really long words, and it's hard to get them out. People don't quite understand what that means. An everyman thriller. That's kind of like my name for the genre, and it just was not hitting. It was not hitting at all because I'm not engaging the people. When you say, "What would you do if a child you knew was killed and that killer got away with it?" Right? All right. And then I've got this little tagline here. No one wants to join the dead kids. This is from the back of the book, right? So I put this here. No one would ever want to join the Dead Kids Club. The dues are a price too high to pay. Two grieving parents find themselves plumbing the depths of despair when their son is killed by an unrepentant drunk driver who escapes justice for his crimes. He gets to live where their son's life ended all too soon. Can they find solace through their support group, or is revenge the only path to finding peace? The thing is, killing the son of the city's most notorious mobster has consequences. And then this is my little tagline here. We all have a dark side. And once we set aside our better angels to let loose our inner demons, there's no turning back. Pricing, and then my little blurb here. But I think, well, I don't know. I don't know if I really need that. It's funny. Sometimes I'll say, there's sex and violence in here. I don't know if that's a selling point or a deal breaker, and people laugh at that. And usually they don't mind either way. So this is what I'm putting up there, right? Which is kind of like, really, really heavy duty. So this is what I want to go with here. Let me go ahead and spread this one out a little bit more. Didn't want you to see that one yet. Okay, so here we go. So now you can see that this is going to be a little bit more in line with the style of the book, for one thing. Got the red, white, and black bands here, like the book cover. And then these letters. What would you do in big, bold letters right there at the top? People are walking by and they see that. What would you do? They're going to be like, what would I do about what? If someone killed your child and got away with it. That I think is going to be a better thing for people to see from a distance. The other thing too is instead of doing just like a regular 8.5 by 11 size thing here, do I have any? 8.5? Let me see. Yeah, so this is 8.5 by 11, right? Regular sheet of paper. That's what I normally put up there. What I got here, let me take this here and show you what I'm talking about here. What I have for this artwork is I'm going to be using one of these. So this is an 11 by 17 stand up, right? Much bigger, twice as big. It's two 8.5 by 11 stacked on top of each other. You can see it from a good 10, 15 feet away as you're walking by. And if you saw that artwork posted in there, I think you might stop and take a look at it, right? So you come, you see this here. What would you do if someone killed your child and got away with it? Oh, and then I have a couple more beats here, but I made it into just there's a lot of words, but they're just beats that sort of build on top of each other. It's like, and so they're all questions, right? What if you decide to kill your child's murderer, but it turns out he's the son of the city's most notorious mobster, and a nosy reporter and a curious cop get a little too close to the truth? What if the parents in your support group notice that other child killers are suddenly dying? Discover the answers in the Dead Kids Club. So I may cut one of these out. I'm not quite sure. Um, We'll see how I feel about it. I may want to tighten this up a little bit here, but the questions I think are something that I really believe may lead to more engagement. Because a couple people I asked that question to and said, I'd kill the son of a bitch. I said, well, that's what they do in this story, but they don't stop there. And they go, "Oh, really?" So it kind of like gets you sucked in there. And then, Dexter is just out on Netflix again. So a lot of people are rediscovering that. So I think that's a good thing to mention at times. So this is going to be my new stand up for the Dead Kids Club. So I've also got a giant banner that stands up behind me um, to catch people from a distance. But this is the one that I think. Oops, oh, damn it! Ah, crap! I just spilled some water on my desk. Let me clean this up. Live stream man. All right. I think we're okay now. Let's see here. Is that anything important? Yeah, probably. All right. So you can tell I do that frequently because I have a towel nearby to handle my messes. Okay. All right. So that's for that pitch. So that's how I'm going to refine this. I'm going to give that another shot. Got a show coming up this coming weekend. It's a paranormal show. So I'm mostly going to be focusing on the Rainy and Day paranormal mysteries, but I'm still going to bring this with me and see if this gets any attention. See how we do with that. So I'm going to replace that smaller stand up with this bigger one that people can see. And it's like, bam, what would you do? Pull them in with a question, get them engaged. So that's going to be instead of this, which is just kind of like a lot of words, a lot of stuff to read, and it's too much. Now, what I may do on the smaller one is take the back of the book, blow it up, and put it in there so that if people want to read the back of the book, they can do so without having to pick it up and turn it over. But the downside of that is Jody is like the master at this, right? People come up, he hands them the book with the back cover and says, "This is my book," and they take it and they've got it in their hands, and at that point, they are that much closer to walking away with it, right? So that's something I got to work on. So I'll probably just go with the one big stand up and then have the book in front of it, and then I'll hand people the book because I got a stack of those behind there. So I'll probably do a double stack of the book and then put this on top so it's really high, and then we'll see how that works out. Now for the near death, let me show you what I had before. Oh, that's the wrong one. This is the one that we had before. Here we go. X Files of the Paranormal. I like did a really lame invitation of that. Rainy and Day Investigations, a 5-star paranormal mystery series. Okay, that's too small to read. You can't really tell. Got our award here, a couple of book covers. Inspired by life and work of da 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 da. Who cares, right? Ugh, boring, boring, boring. I don't want that. I want this. I want to see Scooby Doo meets the X Files, and then go into my book. Now, here I'm going to redo these covers. This is just a placeholder. I have to actually update this because the covers now have I don't have them here. Have a little bit of shading in there with the color of the background. So this is like kind of a blue gradient on there. This is a brown gradient. Makes them just look a little bit more professional because I like the gradients. And that's why I'm redoing the gradient here on this page here. I think I'm going to make this gradient the whole page, but I have a problem with this. The way Word handles floating text, it puts it in a box and there's a border, and I still need to work on that. All right, so there you go. So Scooby Doo meets the X Files, right? So that's going to be that big size too. So you see that Scooby Doo and X Files, you go, what the hell is that all about? Hopefully, it will draw people in. I don't know if I'm going to stick with this one. This one is kind of risky because the Scooby Doo may turn people off. They may think it's too cartoonish. If anybody has any other suggestions, um, another comp I can use. Um, But we'll see how it goes. It's fun though, because and we in the first book we actually do make reference to Scooby Doo because Jennifer drives this old VW bus, minibus, and and Nate says to her, "Was this like the old Mystery Machine?" She goes, "Oh, And he goes, and yeah, they have a conversation about Scooby Doo in the first book. So it is kind of relevant to that, but you'll see how that goes. So that's where we're going with that. And then lastly, for the podcast, I'm going to do a large size one here that does this. So now the addition to this one is the logo. So previously it was just a lot of words, and words without pictures kind of sucks. And what I did here too is I put the QR code in the face of the logo so people can go up there and snatch that and be taken straight to the homepage of the podcast, bedtime stories studio. And so you got this. Try to keep it as short as I could. Tells you what mine's staying awake for. Visit bedtime stories studio. List on your favorite thing, and then the mini book prices. So that's going to do that mini book prices, and then if they look at the mini books and go, if you really like short stories, though, you can get the full anthology for $20. And then so now this is the other thing too that Jody has been sort of like persuading me to raise the price to $20. Originally was selling the book for $15. That's a pretty decent price point for a book. Um, it's a crappy royalty on Amazon, but it's always a crappy royalty on Amazon. They take so much money. Um, but especially when you consider that the cost of printing the book is between $5 and $6, which is not too bad. I mean, those mini books I bought, these things cost me $2 to make. Right? Where did I put it? These cost me $2 each to make. On Amazon, it's $2.30, but with shipping, it would probably be like 250, 260, or something like that. So almost $3 to print one of these, and it's only 50 pages. But a 300-page novel 6x9 is only $5 or $6. Kind of strange. I guess the biggest cost is in the binding, the cover and the binding, that whole process. So the point is I can get the books from Amazon in bulk at the author prices, which is the printing cost plus you have to pay the shipping. You don't get the free shipping on that one. Um, and then plus tax too, which kind of sucks. Because I had to charge sales tax at this event as well. So I paid tax, and then my customers paid tax too. So Illinois, woohoo, good for you. All right, so this is this. So anyway, so I was talking about pricing, right? So the first couple of times I did shows, I sold them for $15, and then an additional book was only $10, which decent, right? So the first book I'm making maybe $9, and each additional book I'm making $4, which is pretty good, right? It's almost when you average out the whole thing, it comes out to 100% profit basically. So however, if I sold made $300 in sales, $150 of that was a profit. At the $20 price point, obviously it goes up a little bit, right? So now at the $20 price point, you get like $14 in profit for the book, and then you drop the price of the next one to $15. Now you're making $9 profit on the book, right? So that is much better for that, and people don't mind paying that most of the time. Now, you can always, if someone looks like they're interested, but they're balking at the price, you can always knock that $5 off for them and make the sale, right? It's better making the sale than not, even if you're going to lose $5 on the deal. But you're not really losing $5. You're just not making as much. So the point of that is to sort of like find that price point. So at this paranormal thing, I'm not sure what's going to happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to price them at $20. I'm going to say if you buy two or more, they're $15 each. So it'll encourage people to buy more than one book. Hopefully, they'll buy the two near death and afterlife books. That's a paranormal thing. So I'll sell two of those for $30. Cost me about 12, so I'll make $18 in profit. And if I can sell $300 or sell $300 of books there, then I'm going to be making probably closer to $200 in profit. So that's the goal. Um, I'll try that out and try that aspect out. It's all a matter of trial and error. All of this stuff, the pitching, marketing, pricing, trial and error. But $20 for a nice paperback book seems to be an acceptable rate. But people are looking for a bargain. You can always hook them in at the lower price. So when the lower price was $10, then you're really kind of like you're making less than that 100% profit, right? And you're selling it at kind of like a almost a bargain bin price. And there is something to the, sell the book for what it's worth, not for what you can get for it. And you may lose some sales. If I sold this book for like, $10 each, yeah, I probably would get some sales, but a lot of people would say it's a $10 book, probably not very good. That's just the way people think. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to print all these up at 11 by 17 and put them in the giant stand-ups and bring that to my next show and see how that goes. What else do I have here? So this is, yeah, I don't know if I'm even use this one. Um, Pricing. I'm probably even. What I'll probably do for the pricing is I'll just say $20, two or more books, $15, and make it much bigger because this is again too much to read. And then I'll put the audiobook and ebook prices because some people, I I did sell a couple of ebooks just on their own at the sale. Each of these is like pure profit. Well, I do have the overhead for Book Funnel. Book Funnel does charge me a monthly fee, but it's pretty done. And then yeah, here's this one too. I may do that and so forth. So we'll see how this goes. So I basically combine these two with the one with the QR code. And yeah, it's nice to have all this on here, but people aren't going to stop and read it. So going with this one here, where it's just basically, hey, like audiobooks, you'll love the award-winning bedtime stories for insomniacs. Tells you won't mind staying awake for. All many books, $5, 5 for 20, 10 for 35. Okay. I think it still feels a little wordy, but it's less wordy than this it was here, right? So this is just all words, no pictures, QR code and stuff like that. And here I've taken that logo that I created. Told you guys this logo actually is working very well for me in terms of the last ad buy I did. So that's good. And I throw the QR code in there so if people want to grab it, they can. They don't need to necessarily take a card. All right. So the thing I do need to do is I need to redo these covers. And what I thought, if we have time, yeah, we might be able to do that, is show you how that would work. So let me see if I've got this here. Okay. So what I'm going to show you how to do is how to create something like this, which is basically which is basically a kind of like a 3D rendering of the entire book. You got the spine here and the cover there in perspective. Now, what you need to start, and you can start with your actual um, book cover design. So let me show you the book cover design for Near Death. Let's go to that one. Let's go open and it's down here. We're going to go back to this. Chosek, Rainy and Day, Near Death, cover. Do I have the new cover on here? Yeah, cover, and then let's see here, 6x9 book covers. Where is it? Near Death, 6x9. Click to create preview. That's not it. That's not it. Revised. Is this it? Revised. Small. Oh, that's here's the one I want. This is the one I want. Okay. Revised. Okay. So this is the book cover that I submit to KDP to have this printed up, right? Let me get this over here. Bring this down. There we go. All right, so this is it. This is the whole thing. You can see these little guide marks here for where the book uh, things is. And where that comes from, that is, bring this over a little bit here. Bring these down. Okay. That's this thing right here. And what I can do here is I can take this off. Take this off. And you can see this is the layout for this here, right? And let me actually take all this stuff off here. No, I'm okay, right? Interesting. Okay. Okay, so what you got here is the white area is the safe print area. These lines here are the bleed lines, right? So that outer edge, this little sort of eighth of an inch border around this thing, that is going to be chopped off. But they can't guarantee that it's going to be chopped off right in this spot. Sometimes you'll see the cover drift over to the right or the left, and the name on the spine will like drift from left to right and stuff like that. So you got to kind of like design it within that expectation, because a lot of times the printing is just crap. Now over here you can see that I've got, in addition here, I've got these marks here for where the fold in the spine is. So what I'm going to do here, this one? No, this one. There we go. What I'm going to do here, and why is that right? Yeah, that's fine. Is I am going to, yeah, that's right. I'm going to chop this up into just these pieces here, the spine and the front cover, and then I'm going to fold it. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this as something else so I don't ruin my original artwork here. So it's going to be revised.3D. Okay. So now I've got it in a brand new file here. I can go ahead and do stuff with it and make it fit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten it out. So by flattening out, I'm taking away all the layers. Normally I work in layers here, but once I've got this done here, I can flatten those layers. So I can just come in here and I can flatten image. Here we go, flatten image. And so what that's going to do is it's going to take all the layers and flatten them down into one image, and now it's easier for me to work with this. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it. Oops. I select my selection tool. I'm going to trim it to just the spine and the front cover printable area. So I'm going to cut off the bleed area. In order to do that, I'm going to come here to image and I'm going to crop to selection. Okay, so now I've got this here, and I've also got now this little line here to delineate the difference between my spine and my front cover. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an alpha channel to this. What that does is that makes sure I got transparency behind this. So when I do my manipulations here, you'll see that it's transparent. And that way, then when I save it to a PNG file and I put it on some marketing materials, the background will merge with it much more easily. All right. So how do we do this next? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with the front cover here. So I'm going to select the front cover. You want to make sure that you're snapping to the guidelines so that they're right there. Then I'm going to come here to Tools, Transform Tools, and Rotate. I'm sorry, 3D Transform. So here's the 3D Transform. First thing I want to look at is the angles. Ooh, excuse me. Now, I got hiccups. Hang on a second. if I've got this image here, you can see I got X, Y, and Z axes. So the X axis would fold it like this, right? Rotate it around this way. Y axis rotates it this way along the vertical, and the Z axis would rotate it off of, how would it rotate it? Oh, it'd rotate like this, around like that. We just want to do the Y axis here. And typical value that I use for this is going to be about 20 degrees. That's a nice little angle here. You can go as high as 30 degrees if you want. I think that's a little too sharp. This is like kind of like the typical isometric here. You get a better look at the spine if you want to have that. But I find that 20, maybe 24 is a pretty good. So I'm going to go with 20 here. And you'll notice that this exceeds the size of the image here. So after I got my rotation, I'm going to do the offset here. And I want to, in order to make it smaller, what I need to do is move it back on the z-axis, on that plane, the depth plane. So I'm going to take the z-axis and bring it back until, and bring it forward, I'm sorry, until the image, the corner is just there at the top. So I'm going to zoom in here and then bring this up some more till that vertex is right there on there. Okay, good. And then let's see here. Do we have the whole thing in here? Yeah, the whole thing is fitting inside this, so I can leave that there. I'm going to go ahead and click on transform. And it does my 3D transform, and it takes that part of the cover and lists it there. You see you get this floating selection here. In GIMP, to get rid of that, it's Control H. Took me a long time to remember that, but there we go. So now I've got the front cover kind of rotated and in its place here. Now I need to do the same thing for the spine. Oops. Let me go to the selection tool here. There we go. Select the spine this time. Bring this down all the way. Okay, so now the spine is selected. We're going to go back here and do the 3D transform again. Tools, transform tools, 3D transform. Bring this over here. Okay. So here, the rotation is going to be minus 70. Right? So it's going to be whatever your rotation on the front is, 90 minus whatever your rotation on the front. So I did 20 on the front. So minus 20 is going to get me there. And do the same thing here. I'm going to do my translation on the z-axis till it's the vertex is in the right place there. A little bit more. There we go. And then I'm going to go over on the X, move it over next to this. So I want to get it right next to it so I don't see any transparency there. I think this is going to be the spot there. That looks good. Check the bottom. Yeah, the bottom angles are both there too. Okay, good. I think it's okay. If not, I can always undo it and do it again. So I'm going to go ahead. You'll see that the image is still there in place, but once I hit the transform, that'll go away. Transform. There it is. And then let's go ahead and press Control H. Okay, now see, I didn't go far enough. You see that little transparent zip there? Okay, let's go. Control Z. Control Z again. Oops, Control Y. Let's go to my transform tools, transform, 3D transform. You know what? Let me take it back to this spot here, and then I'll do it over again. 3D transform, angle, minus 70. And then we're going to do translation here. There you go. Okay, and then we'll do the X. Slide it over. And so I want to get here where I think it's there, and then one more notch. And that should do it. Transform. Control H. Oh, I missed it again. Okay, I gotta go 2 notches over. Let's see, can I go over one more? Looks like I can. No, it doesn't do anything. I take it back. All right, let's go back one more time. Transform, 3D transform, Y, translation, Z, and then exit over. All right, I think that'll do it. Transform. There we go. Hit Control H, and we should see. Okay, good, perfect. There's no transparency showing through there, and I can see now I've got the 3D book. You can see the name on the spine. You can see the front cover, and it kind of like gives you that sort of impression of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that, and then I'm gonna export it. Export, and the way the export works is you just put a different extension on there. PNG is going to export it as a PNG. Bring this down a little bit. There we go. Hit the export button. Usually get some options here as to what we want to do with the PNG. The defaults are always good enough, right? There it is. So forth. So say background color. That's the translucent thing here. Hit export. So remember that's revised 3D. And so basically what it's doing now is it's taking that image, converting it to a transparent PNG file so I can use it on my poster. So we'll see how that looks in just a second. And I'll do the same thing for the afterlife. We may not have time to do that one. Okay, exporting. It's usually taking a long time. I do have a lot of stuff open on my computer right now. Probably shouldn't do that while I'm streaming. I should probably minimize the stuff that's open. All right, got it. So let's come back over here now to this. I'm going to take this image off. And I'm going to bring in here. Let's bring this up. All right, let's come back here to D. And we're going to go to Ritosic. And we're going to go to Rainy Day. Death. Cover. And let's see here. Sometimes we can just see it here. There's a new one. There it is right there. Near Death Final Draft. 6x9 revised 3D PNG. Let's drag it over here now. And I'm going to have to resize it. And resize it again. Bring that text up, and there we go. That's probably the size I want to go with. Let's see here. Send this over to the left. Just for now, and then I'll put the... So eventually I'm going to have 3 of these on here. I have Near Death, Afterlife, and Farsight. And then after that, I don't even know what the title is for the next one, but we'll have that going. So there we go. So now I've got my title, my cover on there. I'll put the other cover on there, and I'll center those 2. Maybe I'll put the award in there. We'll see how that goes. I've got that over here. I can throw that in. This one here. So that's how I do that. That's how I make these 3D looking things. I think it's a lot nicer than just the flat image, right? Flat image is okay, but it doesn't look as cool, right? So this is the flat, that's the 3D. You kind of get the sense that, hey, there's an actual physical book available. Let me get that. So, let's look at this. Anything? Yeah, I know I'm going to tweak these words here, but and so by probably wondering too, how am I going to get this printed on 11 by 17? Kinko's FedEx. They usually have a service where you can send them a large format 11 by 17. They'll print it in color. I don't know if they do the edge to edge. They may crop it, but that's okay. I don't mind. But yeah, you can get printed up on 11 by 17 color, or color printing is, I think they use color laser printing, so it's kind of like really sharp. You don't have that, you know, nozzle problem you have with an inkjet. And so I'll get that printed up, all three of these, and then I'll put them in my little stands here. My little stands, my huge stands, right? It's like twice as big as my head. This is really huge. So this will be standing up on top of the books so that people will come and be able to see that. So I'll have that, and then I'll probably put the podcast one on the table with the mini books in front of it. Maybe I'll raise it up a little bit, but I don't want to block. I'm pretty tall, so if you're not as tall as me, you may have an issue with tall displays. But if you don't have a lot of books too, so like when it's just me at a book sale and I need to fill up a 10-foot table or even a 6-foot table, I've got plenty of room to work with here, right? So that sign is only 11 inches wide, so that the books, yeah, I got plenty of room. So that'll be the goal with that. So we'll continue working on that. These will be passed into the archives as I learn my trade here. I think the pricing needs to be bigger too. This is conveys the information, but it's too much information, right? I should just say $20 for one. Let's go ahead and bump this up in size. We'll go boom, 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 and then two or more, only $15. And let's again make this two bigger too. What's the size of this here? This is 48. So bump this up to 48. And then we'll bump the whole thing up. One line. Change the color. Let's change this back to the dark blue there. And then I can do like the audiobook pricing and stuff down here. Audiobook. So let's see here. Just gonna put this all in one line. Yeah, there you go. That works. So now I've got a pricing sign here that is a little bit more obvious, right? $1 each. The right size? Yeah, 36, 36. Should make this 36 too. Okay, so 36. Let me take this down a bit. One more notch. $20 for one, two or more, $15 each. Okay, so there we go. And this is going to be con specials. I'm going to a convention here. Con specials. For one book. So yeah, can I fit in here? Not this stuff. Includes audiobook and ebook. Here, I'm going to change the line spacing. Let's see if I can do that. Line spacing options, multiple. Oops, too much. Eight. Yeah, that looks good. Two or more, 15 each. And then I got the other things here, $10 for audiobook, ebook. All right, so got that all set up there. So I'll print that out and put that into a smaller one. Um, and then I need to come up with some sort of display too. I was looking for at displays for my mini books. 'Cause I just laid them flat on the table, but can't see them walking by. Let me see if I can pull this up. Do I have time? Oh, it's after midnight. Oh, well, I'll show you tomorrow. Something to talk about tomorrow. I'll show you about my displays and how I set things up. Maybe I'll pull out some more stuff. Show you the technology too. The square reader and all that kind of stuff is really very cool. And but that's enough for today. Uh, sorry I missed you over the weekend, but I did get a lot of good information. Hopefully, you'll make use of this. And oh, I didn't even see you there. Hey, York. Yeah, pricing is very reasonable. Most books in my city cost way more. You know, I find that too. And a lot of people do 25, $30 for a book. Um, of course, you're in Canadian. You're in Canada. You're in Canada, so it's Canadian dollars, and that does tend to run a little bit more expensive. Trying to remember what the price on my books are in Canada. I think. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. KDP. Bookshelf. Okay. Book details. Gonna jump over to the pricing here and see what it's $20 book in Canada sells for. Bring this over here so you can see what I'm looking at. Okay. And there we go. So the cost for me to print this anthology here, 454. With shipping, $5 a book. It's a slightly smaller book than the other ones. All right, so let's see what it looks like in Canada here. Yeah, see, it's 5.98 in Canada, so it's like, let me see what the retail price is. So my retail price in the US is 20. In Canada, it is 27. So yeah, so quite a big bump in Canada. $27.12 Canadian. So that's kind of interesting. You can see here the royalty at this price point is $7.45. When I sell it now, obviously, buy it for 5, I get twice as much. So, and that's this royalty. I don't have the expanded distribution on this. I guess if I did this, I think it comes down. Let's see here. No, it's about the same. All right. So anyway, so that's you can see what I've got going on here. So this one, the low price there, I get a bigger royalty. Most of these come up like $5.78, something like that, for the bigger novels. What they do is they charge you a flat rate, and then for every page after 50, I believe, or maybe higher because yeah. So anyway, so that gives you that market. If we look at, well, we don't have time to do that, but there you go. That explains that. Yeah, York. It's the currency exchange, really. It's just the Canadian dollars, sadly, are worth less than American dollars. Right now, the current exchange rate is pretty low. It looks like it's let's see. So for one, that's $20 or something. So $1 US would be $1.40 in Canada. So that's how that goes. Dollar 35. All right. So, but yeah, but $20. But yeah, if you look at different book rates, a lot of people go 25 to 30. But here's the thing, too, right? When you're selling a show, you're signing it. So they get a signed book. Signed books sometimes go for like 50 or $60. People set that up. But and the thing is, I don't have to do shipping and stuff, so I don't mind marking that $5 off. because they don't have to pay. I you know I kind of like the fact too. If I do a $20 price point, when I sell these online and I ship them, I can eat the shipping, at least in the U.S. So, all right, that is enough for tonight. I'm way over. I will see you guys tomorrow, and hopefully every day after that. But I do have that other show coming up next Saturday, so I may take next Saturday off. We'll see how that goes. If I get back home in time, we'll certainly do one. Let you know what goes on there. All right, bye.